Okay, if you can hear me, I think we can start. Rosalind, you raised your hand. Was it by mistake? Let me
There
know
was
if you
no
guys
sound.
can
I
hear
thought
me.
it was from my end here. I can hear now.
Okay. It's 2:10, so we have given enough time. We'll just start. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. As I always say, we are learning and we are building, and I don't take it for granted that people will leave whatever else they have to do and join a scheduled meeting. But I know it's for our own good. At the same time, it's good to show appreciation. So I thank each and every one of you for always turning up. You know me, but you don't know me. So I said this session, I will start with my own background. I'll start with my own story. I will just try to be brief because there's always a time limit. We can't continue learning writing all day. We have only 2 hours, out of which 10 has been spent waiting for 10 minutes have been spent waiting for people to join us. So I was born in Enugu. I grew up between Enugu and Lagos, Aba, Port Harcourt, and then eventually went to Unimed. But even before Unimed, I started studying medicine in Uniport. Ended up graduating as an accountant in Unizik. Went through 3-4 universities, because of one thing, which is another story. Is a story for another day. So, but all the while, I've always been in an environment, in a family. Growing up, we had books, starting from the usual Ladybird and Blyton, Pesetas, and Sadly Chase, and the rest of them. All of us grew up reading stories. We loved novels. And then I was a voracious reader. I was reading Time magazine, Newsweek, newspapers, The Guardian, and so on. My favorite Nigerian columnists were Abati, Ocheromen Nana. I was interested in the media. I was interested in information because my dad will always come back with a newspaper. Weekly, we'll get Newswatch, Newsweek, Time magazine delivered. So I was reading. I read everything. I was also into movies. I watched a lot of movies. So I read Abati's satirical method. I don't know if you guys know, Abati used to write a column. He was also editor of the Guardian newspapers. He's a wonderful writer. He will present facts in a very humorous manner and at the same time still, deliver his message. And then there was Dele Shobole. That one, I think is still there now. He wrote for Vanguard. He will load you with facts, figures, and dates, but he will still deliver his message, sometimes in idiomatic expressions of in Yoruba language. So eventually, I finished in Unizik as an accounting graduate, but that didn't stop me. I was reading. I had interest in writing. I mean, if you read a lot, you'll be interested in writing. But then, I lost my dad, and I had to take over the family business. So I started doing business, started selling petroleum. We had a filling station, we had trucks. It was a small business empire, so to say. So I was doing business from 1995, thereabout, even as an undergraduate. I was doing business from 1995 till I went up to Lagos, took up a station with Total, and went down to Asaba, took another station with NMPC, eventually by 2009, I decided I had to do my master's, because by then I had paid for 2 of my siblings to do masters abroad. So I said, I will take care of myself. I want to read masters. So I went to Cardiff University to study masters in political communication, because I was already writing then and sending to Vanguard and all those newspapers. So in Cardiff, it was all about writing. And that was where my interest in journalism and writing also quadrupled. We all we did was writing. You know, you had one coursework, everything was just about writing. And I just fell in love with the craft. And since then, I don't think I've looked back. I was writing and submitting political, socio-political topics to the Cable, Vanguard, the Nation, all the newspapers, Sahara Reporters even, you know. At a point, I had an account with Sahara Reporters. I could just write and upload. But one thing I noticed eventually was that most of the people, most of the opinion writers I knew then eventually gave up. Some of them went ahead and started doing lecturing. You know, Ken Dibe is my uncle. He was a very prolific columnist with Sun. I met him and he told me, look, that delving into writing on social political topics is just a waste of time. That was what he told me, that you don't convince anybody. People already have their minds made up. You convince maybe a fraction, which is nothing. So he went back to school and started writing fiction. He's a lecturer in one of the universities there in Massachusetts, but he's no longer writing anything about politics. You know, he's not even interested in Nigeria. He's just a Nigerian who visits Nigeria. But even after that, I continued writing till I went to UCC here and did a course, postgraduate study in digital arts and humanities. I felt like this is a digital era, and if writing is the basis of all one can achieve, develop, or create, it's better I start applying myself to the acquisition of knowledge and digital skills. And what better way than to do it with people? So I stopped writing about politics. I actually left Facebook, where I was, you know, stomping then. And then I started building this community so that I will start learning and teaching along with others. So here we are. Welcome to this session. Today we'll be talking about nonfiction. And my style of delivery, I would like to draw you guys in. I don't just want to be talking because I'll slip off. So please be ready to participate. And if I may ask, if it's possible for you, please put on your camera and we would love to see you. If it's possible for you, if you're in a good environment, if you think your smile is enchanting, you can just put on your camera and we would love to see you. So, welcome everybody. Now I captioned this telling the truth because nonfiction is about facts, you know, trying to tell the truth. And then we'll talk about writing nonfiction. Mostly I'll dwell on creative nonfiction, and then I'll end up with my latest darling, you know, craft essays. So I would like you to gear up to participate, because if you don't, like I said, I might just doze off, and I don't want to doze off. As this is about nonfiction, you know, which is about telling the truth, presenting the facts, albeit in a literary manner, maybe poetic manner or journalistic style. And we are here, we are all learning. There's no better way than to learn than to tell the truth together. It is a vast area, it's a vast genre, and you can explore any area that interests you. But for this course, like I just said now, I will offer more insights on creative nonfiction, and then I'll browse a little around journalistic writing, journalism, because of course I have a master's in media studies. And then we'll zoom into essays, and particularly craft essays. That's where I will drop the pen today. It's an area I've been immersed in for some time now, and I've kind of hybridized my strategy about writing craft essays, but we'll get to that later. So, a nonfiction, talking about the types. If it's nonfiction, that means it's not made up. We know fiction. We are not going to do compare and contrast, but we know fiction mostly made up. Nonfiction is a very wide genre of writing, encompasses all writing that are not rooted in a fictional narrative. So nonfiction can be based on any real life experience. Any real life experience, pardon me. Now, I'm not a fan of definitions. It can be limiting, since I believe that concepts can be viewed from various perspectives. And even Aristotle, who is considered one of the progenitors of nonfiction, he offered complex synthesis around different topics in psychology, in philosophy, in sciences, in economics, politics, you name it, linguistics. Aristotle was an all-rounder. As you can see, I mean different things to different people. I also come from a diverse background. And I started off, like I said, studying medicine, but I ended up graduating as an accountant, and then added 2 other postgraduate degrees, I've also taken courses in creative writing, entrepreneurship. I've done graphic design. Whatever I want to learn. Whatever I want to do, I try to learn it. And, by acquiring wide knowledge, some people refer to me, like my uncle will say, you're a jack of all trades and master of none. I said, well, I don't believe in expertise or master of this. If I'm able to combine all these skills and survive, impart knowledge, make money enough to keep me going, I think I'm satisfied. I used to say, I don't want to be a billionaire. So a good place to start doing nonfiction is what? Telling the truth. Telling what you know. And that is exactly, what we are trying to do here. I could regale you with definitions all day long, but I'm not a fan of definitions. I'd rather start with a question to draw you into this discussion. So if you give me 5 minutes, you can just use 5 minutes to go through anybody that wants to answer this question, please. So which between fiction and non-fiction do you think is more tasking, more difficult to create, to write? Anybody? Which between fiction and non-fiction do you think is more difficult? I know we have many fiction writers here, so I know what to expect. Can anyone just tell us? Yeah, Rosalind, let's hear from you. You have the mic.
Okay. Well, for me, I feel fiction is more difficult to write. I, when you're writing fiction, you're expected to show more than tell. And there's this technicality about fiction that is a bit difficult, even for me as a writer. So I think fiction is more difficult to write than nonfiction. If you see how authors churn out books on nonfiction, especially all these how-to books, you know that if I had wanted to write a how-to book, I think I would have written more than 5 by now. But because me, I want to write a fiction, it's been difficult for me. I've been trying to get the plot and everything, and it's not easy. So for me, I feel writing fiction is more difficult than writing non-fiction.
Well, expected. Thank you so much. Emmanuel, you raise your hand. What can we hear from you? Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
trust we are all good. Thank you so much for the lecture so far. And yes, as for the question, I think non-fiction is quite easier. I think it is easier than fiction. In fiction, it takes a lot to grasp a reader's attention. But in non-fiction, the reader is already focused. I mean, is already engrossed in the words because he believes that there are some informations that he needs to be able to decode from the text. But in non-fiction, the reader is supposed to be relaxed. But in fiction, sorry, the reader is supposed to be relaxed because the fiction writing is supposed to play as as a movie, as a kind of theme in his head. Like, it's just like writing in order to make it look like the reader is watching it happen, like showing the reader instead of trying to tell the reader what is happening. So fiction takes a lot. Thank you.
Well, expected again. Yeah, thank you. It's true, depending on your perception. Some people will say non-fiction is more difficult because you have to do a lot of research. But because non-fiction is wide, commentary is non-fiction. Reporting the news is non-fiction. I mean, I don't see anything difficult in reporting the news. If I'm a reporter and I'm here and I observe a fight and I want to report that fight, I don't need to think. I don't need to research. I'll just write what I observe, and that is so. Well, we all have our own opinion, but let me quote Morgan Crockett. I think his summation of the difference between the two is quite interesting. I love the use of words. He said that fiction allows you to unleash your imagination, creating captivating stories and transporting readers to new realms. Whereas nonfiction enables you to share real life experiences, present factual information, and shed light on the world we live in. Depends on what your fancy is, you will now choose which you believe is more difficult. For me, I say fiction helps me decompress, just like what you said, Emmanuel. It helps me decompress, when you read fantasy novels, when you read the sandwiches, the suspense, and it helps me to, but when I read non-fiction, I am I'm searching for something. I would say it helps me to activate. The other one helps me to decompress, relax, kind of. But if I'm reading non-fiction, I am actively searching for something. Well, both are needed by every human. So we'll move on. If we say types, many types, if you go online now and type types of non-fiction, it's a wide genre, like I said. There are so many types. Talk about academic, research, review, or critique, literary, journalism, instructional, creative. There are many types of non. So reading nonfiction may not appeal to many people, especially those who read fiction regularly, because without plot twists, you can have plot twists, but it is not often. Character development and all the intrigues around fiction. Non-fiction is usually less imaginative, it's less appealing, less emotional, and less exciting. But the problem still may not be with non-fiction. It just may be with the reader, how you are reading it. We usually read fiction for the thrill, the drama, and the evocation, the suspense. And if you can't read non-fiction like that, of course. But if you know exactly what you wish to get from a text, a non-fiction text, naturally you become more interested in reading it. We are curious human beings. That is just the thing. And there are other ways you can benefit from reading non-fiction. You can space your reading. I know the typical essay is supposed to be, there's a general saying that the typical essay is supposed to be read in one sitting, but you can space your reading if it's a book, if it's a longer text. Space your reading so that you can digest and connect the dots that you're collecting. Then you can also read more books of a particular type. Let's say you're reading Malcolm Gladwell, if you know him. We know his creative nonfiction focuses on culture, impact, trying to dissect, interrogate, and analyze what is wrong in society, So if you are able to read more of his books, it will compound the knowledge and make more neural connections to your brain. And over time, you begin to understand more of what the message is, trying to get across there. In any case, creative nonfiction has, snowballed into something else. And somebody like Malcolm Gladwell, I find some of his books more interesting, more enchanting, more descriptive even than some novels that are fiction. So a creative nonfiction it combines the elements of fiction to narrate real life experience, factual information in an exciting manner, but still through the writer's perspective. And it's a kind of option for those of us who love storytelling, who will want to show rather than tell, so that you write something exciting. I've seen manual, just like a manual for putting on your TV, and it's written in wonderful prose that you begin to wonder if you're reading a novel. So creative nonfiction has hybridized fiction and presenting factual information to make it more nonfiction more interesting. So there are different definitions out there, but again, like I said, I won't dwell on definitions. My typical example of this is, let's say, Emmanuel. If Emmanuel wants to, if Emmanuel wants to observe, let's say Emmanuel wants to observe a wine tapper. He follows the wine tapper to a farm, to the forest, to observe him and see the process of wine tapping. If he's writing it, if he's writing about it, he's taking the reader with him as he's describing the tapper climbing with his tools, the loop, the jerry can, and cutlass, and all other tools. He can decide to show that wine tapping is a serious business. He will maybe do a flashback to the wine tapper's preparation earlier in the morning, how he woke up as early as 4 or 5 a.m. He can decide to show the reader a little about the wine tapper's home, maybe how the wife prepares. So he can add a little bit of humor, maybe describing how the wine tapper fell or stuck his fingers into a nest of poop while trying to hold on to a branch. But either way, he's going to deploy his creative imagination to present this. And the truth is, he was never with the wine tapper at home. He didn't wake up with the wine tapper. Neither did he climb the tree with the wine tapper. But still, these are real life experiences. It's not fiction. So Emmanuel is engaging in a literary journalistic farmland and experience in creating nonfiction. So this is just my own idea of creative nonfiction. So Lee Goldkind is one of the popular writers who have parroted nonfiction to a different level. So I took his definition here. He said that creative nonfiction affords a writer the literary freedom and flexibility to be poetic and journalistic at the same time. Simply put, this is a type of nonfiction that combines the elements of fiction to narrate factual information in an exciting manner through the writer's perspective. And this is very important, through the writer's perspective. Yes,
So,
yes, yeah, the scripture keeps it alive, Becky. Yes, Emmanuel, yeah, go on.
I was thinking about a novel by
Come again?
it's Dan Brown's novel. Yes, I think that should be a perfect example of creative non-fiction. Dan Brown.
Which
I don't know
novel?
if any of you have read Dan Brown's novel.
Yeah, he has many. Which one? Is it the Da Vinci Code?
Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons. I think his novels are basically creative non-fiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's
I've
been
read almost
criticized.
all his novels, and I've been wondering.
It's been criticized a lot too, of course, but from one direction by the church. Been criticized a lot for they are late that they are late that he's told a lot of lies and that his work is basically fiction. I'm sure you know. So, but his work is creative nonfiction, and he's a wonderful writer.
Much more for us to learn and for us to know genetics,
so let's listen to Lee
Goldkind and robots, and God knows so much for us to kind of take in, and that's kind of be a part of this world. And that's one of the reasons that creative nonfiction has become so important, because creative nonfiction can teach people through story all kinds of things that they wouldn't necessarily want to know otherwise. Okay, so I have written a book about robots, but I don't just, it's called Almost Human, Making Robots Think, but I tell stories that enable people to connect with robots. And I put real people in my stories, because we connect with real people. We're people, and readers always want to know how other characters exist. So that's creative nonfiction. And as I said, it's big in writing programs, but other movements have taken place. There is a narrative law movement. People like me are going into law schools and teaching attorneys how to present cases in a story-like form. There is a narrative science movement, and perhaps one of the biggest movements right now is narrative medicine. Almost every major medical school in the United States has at least one person teaching doctors how to write in this creative nonfiction form. For two reasons. One, because doctors need to learn how to communicate more clearly. And secondly, because here's the one thing about doctors that I know you'll agree with me about. If a doctor has one major problem, it's that they may be incredibly skilled doing surgery, for example, or talk or making a diagnosis, for example. But here's their problem: few doctors learn how to listen. And when you write a story, when you learn how to write a story, you have to listen to other people in order to write that story well. And that's kind of the idea behind narrative medicine.
Okay, so that was Lee Gutkind. He's been at the forefront of pushing creative nonfiction. He's, I think, a professor of creative writing. But I don't know if you got his message there. He's trying to tell us the importance of this type of writing. There are stories that you may not want to hear, but these stories have to be told. It's just like the discussion that was going on in the group. It's good to see that some people have did the reading, and they were already dissecting the reading. So I will just jump to that particular text by Shalom Essene. So we'll just begin to interrogate it, because it's my piece on nonfiction that interested me a lot. And that was why I included it in our reading. So if you read it, please let me know what interested you, what impacted you, where you seem to like and dislike in that untimely. Mazi and Becky, you guys were already analyzing, so let's see what you have to say here. Hello? Mazi, Becky, are you still with us? Who read untimely? Who read untimely?
I'm with you, sir.
Okay. So you were saying something about untimely.
Yes, sir.
Let's hear from you.
Yes, sir.
What put you off there?
I must say it's a great piece, a very interesting one. But what really, my immediate reaction when I just glanced through the story was, I wondered why it came for study under nonfiction, whereas it is a creative writing that could purely pass for a fiction. Do you understand? So I was trying to reconcile that. Anyway, that's by the way. Yes, I read through the story, and it was quite interesting. It opened up a lot to what adolescents, precisely teenagers, what they go through, especially under the watch of parents. It points us to the fact that parents need to start paying closer attention to develop a diagnostic eye when it matters looking after their children. A lot could happen under your nose that you are not even aware of, such that when it happens, you begin to, wonder how it happened. Whereas these things happened under your nose. So it exposes that story exposes us to quite a whole lot. But I'm reserved a bit in terms of the style in which the writer used to portray the story. I felt it was too. I felt it was limited, in the sense that it wouldn't be appropriate for all kinds of readers, especially with when it comes to demography. Yes, maybe some readers that are not up to 18 and above may not be suited for that story, because I felt it was raw,
Explicit.
for want of the right to explicit. Exactly, that's the right word, I guess. So, and then I just like I stated in the group chat, my stories, even when I'm writing stories, I like to have a didactic feel to it. I like to have my readers learn one or two things from what I'm trying to portray, because I feel that as writers, we have the opportunity you know, to influence others positively. And I felt this is where the writer didn't really hit very well, because I felt that okay, exposed this since you've exposed this anomaly, I felt that at least you should go a step forward to, to make your reader understand that, look, even as much as I try to, expose these things, you should understand that this is not actually good. This is not morally good for the society. So this is where I felt the reader fell short. Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to know why that story came under non-fiction or creative non-fiction study. Whereas in my opinion, I felt it is a story
Fiction.
that could pass for fiction. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chukwemeka. Becky, you are asking, was that the writer's true experience? Well, you see the problem with nonfiction, especially creative nonfiction, because it is written in this creative style, poetic style. It's not really easy to believe that these are real life experiences. I think maybe Patricia Hampel or one of those female essayists mentioned something like this as as part of our reservation. This is one of the criticisms. Yeah, very prominent criticism of creative nonfiction. People can't decipher whether it is made up or real. But in this girl's case, you can say it's made up. You can say it is real. What I believe is she may have had the experience, but of course she has to spice it up. And we will see all about that in my next slide, because it's about spicing things up. If you write in a creative manner, there's a reason why J.K. Rowling is the richest writer out there. If not, maybe one of the richest, if she's not the richest. People are, of course, okay. You take, for instance, how many of us are here? Most are fiction writers. Most are fiction. Even non-fiction writers read fiction a lot. So creative non-fiction has this central problem of being a kind of hybrid, and people find it difficult to decipher whether it is made up or it is real. And I would say it may be her real life experience, but of course, to catch your attention, to make it worthwhile, to evoke that feeling in you, she had to spice it up. Yeah, you can say something, Becky. You can.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I can't talk if you have the barriers out. I can't be talking from the start excuse myself. So concerning what Maggie said, because we already started the argument yesterday about it wasn't an argument, it was more of an agreement anyway, that the story was more without letting. But then, I remember I read something on Medium. I read a story recently on Medium, and I think the title was what attracted me to this story. When the the title the writer used was like what I thought it was. But on reading the story, I had already been giving it a thumbs up until I read the story and I saw, wow, it is the opposite of what I thought it was. Now, the writer saw a young girl, perhaps at a supermarket, and then she was wearing these bomb shorts that showed most of her thoughts. And even though she described it, like most of her thoughts was straight. And according to the writer, she felt, yeah, this is good. This is freedom of expression. Young girl is able to express herself. That even though the young girl has a masculine body, she's able to express herself by dressing the way that makes her happy. And then I went to the comment section and I noticed a lot of people were like, no, you can't keep pushing this. So even if this particular writer of untimely, what if she doesn't even see this as morally wrong? Maybe to her, this is just a part of growing up for a young person. So when we talk about morality, we know ourselves. We are Africans, especially. I think it's an African thing. But then, even as Africans, there are some things some people don't consider moral enough. For instance, and they consider dating as a teenager as wrong. And then someone else sees it as maybe from 15, a time to have from 15 years, actually a time to start dating or getting exposed to sexuality and all that. So she might have written based on moral and beliefs, her own principles. And then she threw it out there and feels this is what I think. So if you're in a world where everybody wants to express themselves, and as such, you can see things that actually be shocking to you. Because what you consider morally wrong may not be morally wrong for somebody else. Thank you.
Okay, you done, Becky? Thank you. Okay, thank you, Becky. Thank you for that. Yeah, like I said, when I replied to Kwemeka, I said there are subtle lessons. Sorry? Yeah, you can, of course.
I raised my hand.
Yeah, you can say, yeah. I just wanted to.
So, because when I just want to pick on what Becky said about morality, if you paid attention to where she wrote that when she was expecting her period, there was a time she kept begging God that, look, I wouldn't have sexual intercourse again. I believe she understands that what she was doing is not good, and that means she understands the basis for morality. So I do not actually think that maybe she's just expressing herself and does not really have a definition or a mindset of what morality is all about. I think I beg to define that aspect.
Yes, yeah, you can, but listen to me. What I believe Becky is also talking about is the reader, the audience, not necessarily the lady, because as a writer, you have to also consider your audience. Some of the readers might find it as normal, nothing, extremely too bad about it. You understand me? But like I said, this was the point I wanted to raise before. I mentioned that there were some lessons, subtle lessons, and you also have acknowledged it. See, Rosemary, Rosalind, sorry, you have your hand up for a while now. Hello? Rosemary, are you there?
It was up the other time when I raised my hand to talk about the fiction and non-fiction thing.
All right. Okay. So I'll continue. See, even the bestsellers, Chukwemeka, are you there with me? Even the bestsellers, let me give an example. Someone like Malcolm Gladwell, who I've read most of his works, he's a prolific and wonderful writer. But even the bestsellers, they are still open to criticism, because that is one point with nonfiction, creative nonfiction, because it's a kind of hybrid of both types of writing. Even Gladwell has been criticized for having loose arguments, or even lacking any at all, because his works will get you on the edge of your seat like fiction. But he is trying to leave a message still. So some people believe that, I don't know whether in the excitement, because I've read one and I cringed. I was like, no one that Achebe said, rightly, maybe arrogantly, he said, if you don't like my writing, go and write your own. But see, creative nonfiction, I believe one can still present factual information in that manner that is, poetic, that is literary, that elicits the emotions that you get from fiction, and still leave much for the reader to interpret, or even leave much for he or she, the writer, to take off from. That is how you get series. People like that Gladwell. his books, not that they are sequels, but you can say they are something like that. He also leaves at the end some room for you to, draw your own conclusion, interpret, and possibly the next time he will take off, from there. But let me show you the next slide now. Let's get to the next slide so that I can interrogate these ladies on time, because there are quite some fascinating elements there. You can start with her intro. I will just go there. Permit me to just with our introduction. It's very it's very, very captivating. She started. Okay, maybe I'll just zoom into this here. Yeah. Sorry, my sight is becoming so terrible. Okay. One sec. I got the wrong side. But you're able to see where you're seeing what I'm presenting, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me read out her first untimely, her intro. It's always all about intro. If you get your introduction, you don't hook the reader. So she said, it felt like 100 needles shooting through my vagina and up my belly. I was reading maniacally in bed, consumed by hellfire of pain, reminding myself that I had begged and prayed for this when I heard a Yoruba hymn from next door. Terrible singing, a ridiculous abuse to human ears. With what little strength my body allowed, I gathered myself from bed and parted the curtain. This is a wonderful intro. There are good elements to what this lady did here. And I was particularly impressed. I even reached out to her on Twitter and told her, look, this is a wonderful writing. And all I can do is praise you. We're even using your work as part of our reading for the cohort we are doing. And she was delighted. She sent me a message in the box and said that she will follow me. So this is wonderful intro. There's no way that it's visceral. You feel it yourself. You begin to imagine what this lady, hellfire of pain. And then somewhere down there too, where she also deployed this. I think in another paragraph, she wrote in the past tense, yet. It was with such evocative words, it will elicit interest from the reader. Very dramatic and unpleasant abruptness. Becky said it's the audacity to write, even scream, what is usually said in whispers. And that was what Lee Kotka just said in this video. And some of these things are unpleasant and we do not want to hear them. But some other writer, some other reader may want to, and they have to be said. Then she's been honest to a certain level. That's why I said, she acknowledged her naive innocence, which is evident in almost every paragraph. Where she said somewhere down there, she said that she's never used a contraceptive. It was her first time. The imagery, she manages to use witty descriptions that stir the reader's five senses. There's one particular sentence where she said, I'll go back there again, where she said, I think she was trying to tell the boyfriend that, she enjoyed the sex. Hold on. I'll go back to that line again. Yeah, she said, it was sweaty, slippery sex. My skin caught fire. My body had hung. Almost all your five senses are stabbed here. Sight, like sweaty, slippery sex, sight, smell, taste, and then my skin had caught fire. Touch, my body hung, sound. So she really, really did a good job with this. And yes, we must not overdo it. I kind of find it off-putting whenever I read nonfiction that is over descriptive, over dramatic. I find it off-putting. You can show, don't tell. Yes, it's a core tenet in creative writing, but not necessarily in nonfiction. And even in creative nonfiction, you can show without overflogging it, without overdoing it. You know, for instance, if you check the lady, she said something, she mentioned her aunt severally in that text, but we don't know what her aunt looks like. She never told you that her aunt was wearing red or she had a low cut, or we don't know what she looks like. She featured in many scenes. The only thing we know is that she's a neighbor, truly a neighbor, not, you know, not really an aunt in the real sense of the word. But we were never burdened with her description. Her part in the story was to narrate the daily news. She will go out, get the scoop, and narrate it to the girl. So all these skills sum up to the freedom and flexibility that, you know, make creative nonfiction very, very, very beautiful. And that is why it is probably the most popular type of nonfiction out there now. So I think we've unpacked quite a bit for an hour. And if you have additions or questions, I would like to just, maybe we'll take 10 minutes break and come back so that we don't sleep off, get coffee or chewing gum or something. What do you guys think? Are you there? If you can hear me. Rosalie, your hand is still up. Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
here and I
Rosa.
read
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
So we can have 10 minutes break. It's 2 minutes past 3 now, and just 10 minutes. Say 3:15, we'll be back. I'll see you guys. Thank you. Well, well, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys. We're back. Can you hear me? I hope we didn't slip
Yes,
up. Can
sir.
you guys hear me? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on. I will skip to journalism, which, like I said, I won't dwell on. I will just browse through it. I can't afford to skip it because it's dear to me. I spent hard currency and 1 full year doing a master's in media studies. So if I'm talking about writing and I don't include journalism, I'm not being fair to I won't be fair to myself. So we'll have a quick look at journalistic writing. It obviously derives from journalism. And basically, journalism is all about collecting, preparing, and the distribution of news stories, information. That is what journalism is about. News features, feature stories, and related commentary, factual and objective presentation of information, but is usually for the masses. And there's one key tenet about journalism: objectivity. The journalist must strive to present matter, stories objectively, without bias. But we all know how far that can go. So Sir Connolly said that literature is the art of writing something that will be read twice. Journalism is what will be grasped at once. I think this captures it succinctly, and I can't simplify it better than this. Literature is the art of writing something that will be read twice. You try to captivate somebody to read more than twice even. But journalism, if you read a news story now, you should be able to grasp it and take in what happened once. So journalism is about real life events. It's still part of nonfiction. Real life happenings, trying to present these stories in an objective manner. In my days of studying masters in political communication in Cardiff, one of our professors, Dr. Simon Cotty, was a doctor then, now he's a professor. He used the phrase, I would unpack this. Whenever he enters the class, I want to unpack. I later went to his office and asked him, what this unpack? It's not as if I don't know the meaning, literally, but I had this feeling that he was using it in a more in a way that is more literary than what I knew. So I asked him, and he said, look, that journalism for a journalist, in the collection and preparation and distribution of information, as a journalist, you have to unpack the complex details into smaller, granular, simple sentences that the vulcanizer, so long as it's literate, the average person on the street can grasp. And then, think of the masses. That's what I said. Journalism, you're trying to write for the masses. You're trying to present details. Think of, mass communication. That's where it's derived from. So for instance, a reporter who, like I said earlier, if you're in a scene of a fight or an event, you don't need to do much research. You needn't go back to read, to make references, to imagine creative words, to go to descriptionary and get creative words. You can just put pen to paper or latch onto your keyboard and type what you observe. Yeah. Yet, if you're writing an article as a journalist too, or an op-ed, and you have to analyze the event that you reported. I mean, you have to use study wide, you research, you have to read and think a lot to produce something that is worthwhile for your readers. But if you're just doing a news story, a report, you can put pen to paper and write. You have to do an analysis, an opinion piece, because there you make inferences. You have to draw conclusions. You do some argument, develop what and what transpired, what you think and what others may think, and then present it. In my first coursework in political communication was an academic critique. And I learned a lot there because that is where you learn to balance your opinion. If you get a paper written by someone else, just like I was saying what General Achebe said, and you want to just criticize, put down, go and write your own. So when we were doing critique, because the word critique coming from where I was, I thought it was all about criticism, but you have to balance. You have to comment and criticize. Comment and criticize, just like in book review too. You have to evaluate both sides of an argument, both positions, different perspectives of a topic. Because in a critique, you will still have to conclude. And whenever you do something, you do some writing and conclude, you are inadvertently conveying your own opinion. And that is what some people may term as bias, because it's impossible. I think one journalist in Nigeria was always saying it. It is impossible for journalists not to be biased. We are human beings. We are human beings. You will be biased, but as a journalist, try as much as you can not to, present your position, your bias project your bias into your work. Now, for me, if I want to write about a trending topic, if I'm doing a journalistic writing, if I want to do a commentary, it's always easier. When I was writing about politics, every morning I wake up, if you wake up on my Facebook, you will see at least 500 words to it. You will see a post that will do some political analysis. It's really not too difficult for me, because what will I do? Okay, let's say it's about the VP's house that was built with 21 billion. And we want to interrogate this. What will I do? I just go to maybe social media, a Facebook page where people argue. All I need is to present the varying arguments, this side of the story, those in support and those that are against. It's like an argument. And then using conflicting and contrasting conjugations like but, yet, be that as it may. However, meanwhile, still, just using that, I will present it in a manner that if you read, you will begin to get the details, and then you start making your own inferences from the development I did there. You start deriving, and then you also start to make your own input. In 1 hour, 2 hours, I can write an article, because basically it's what I've been doing for years. Once I'm able to present my thing, I'll leave it there for the arguments to take place. There's a journalist that writes every day, Kathleen Johnstone. She's become prolific doing this. All she does is every day she has niched down to American politics and all the, she's anti-war. All the wars across the world. She will, every day, whatever she gets from the broadcast media, she will deploy her tactics, do this, present this version of things, maybe from the Russian side, from the Chinese side, and from the Western side, and she will conclude every blessed day. Kathleen Johnstone, she writes, and she's very good. Interestingly, she isn't affiliated to any media house, but she has managed to rack up an audience. She gets a lot of donations. People are funding her work, but she is diligent. She produces every day when she's writing. And guess another interesting fact. The lady is a poet. once in a while she takes off, she goes on social media detox, and she comes back with an anthology of poems, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 poems. You know, there was a time I followed her. So, like I said, this is not a genre I can afford to skip, because I read journalism, I read media studies. But if you're, I'll just browse through it. If you're interested in discussing more, you want to explore further, you can just pop in a question there or send me a mail, and then I'll provide the answers and we can have a discussion around it. But this is all I'm able to do now, given the time on journalistic writing. So we'll move on. Now we are here at essays. This is the big one. I mean, essay covers everything. Anything can be an essay. Essays. I first learned about the word, the origin of the word essay, not up to 5 years ago. And I've been writing for how long? I was shocked. I was perplexed that I've been writing essays since I was a kid. I mean, we did composition. We wrote essays without knowing its etymology. I didn't know what I was, you know, the meaning of the word. But we are learning, and that is what the learning process. It's a lifelong process. You have to learn every day. But essay means an attempt to try. It's an old derivation from a French word, essayer. You can look it up. It's an attempt, and I find Jennifer Conrad Black's definition the simplest. I always go for the simplest. It's an attempt at connecting your personal experiences, ideas, memories to others, to other people outside yourself. Essay is a personal perspective, but you're connecting to others, to the readers. So, but depending on your purpose as a writer, an attempt, or better still, an essay could be formal, it could be informal, it could be expository, it could be narrative, it could be creative, it could be exploratory, and it can be in any form. It can be an academic research, it can be a critique, it can be a literary commentary, an opinion, even a travel guide. You can write an essay on a place you visited, food review, blog post. An essay can take any of these forms, can take any shape, and if you go out there, you see many definitions, but the simplest one I've come across is from this lady. She's a professor of creative nonfiction in one university in America. She wrote a book that is very popular in becoming a great essayist. You can find it in great courses. If you follow the great courses, it's there. I think that's where I also got the meaning of essay. I read it in maybe 2018 or thereabouts. So her simple definition, like I said, I'm not a fan of definitions, but this is the one I find simplest. An attempt at connecting your personal experience, ideas, memories to others. So even if we may not have an encompassing definition of the essay that is cast on stone, still every essay must try to have certain attributes, must have some characteristics. And basically there are three which have been traced back to Aristotle. And these three together, they are referred to as the artistic proofs of persuasion, which Aristotle himself created. And they form the crucible of the foundation of essay writing. And having gone through this, we'll take a break and see if we can draw in your attention with questions here. Can anyone tell me what do you think is the purpose of an essay? Writing an essay. Do you know what is the purpose of writing an essay? Anyone? We are sleeping. Should I play some music? Yeah. You have the mic. Oh, okay. I can see from okay, Becky. To inform, to entertain, to pass information across. Yeah, yeah. Yes, of course. Rhoda, to state an opinion. Yes. State a standpoint. Becky, yes, yes. Yeah, thank you. Like I said, an essay can take any form, but a good essay must effectively combine these attributes. The attributes I mentioned earlier. Sorry, let me mention them again. You can see them there. Ethos, which is the writer's authority, your own perspective, your status with which you engage the reader and get them to trust you, to say that you're credible. And then logos. Logos is the writer's logical and rational argument, reasoning, which appeals to you as a reader. And then pathos. This pathos is it's the first two are almost a must, but pathos is your ability to elicit some interest and evoke emotions from the reader. So an essay, a good essay must effectively combine these attributes, present a good, flowing, coherent argument that is aimed at persuading the reader that the writer is credible, that your position is worth exploring, that your take can be verified. So, but like I often say, I write to inform when I started writing or to entertain. But this depends on you as the writer, as the essayist. Persuasion is different. Whether you're writing, persuade someone, it is mostly dependent on the reader because one, people have subjective mind. We come from, it's called cognitive bias. We are consciously biased and we know it. So it's quite difficult, like I said, especially in political topics, to convince the Republican that Democrat is this, to convince APC that PDP is this or Labour is this. I know this because I've lived it, I've done it for years. There isn't much you can do to persuade a subjective or biased reader. Yet, as an essayist, as a writer, you still have to try. You still have to try. Why? Because, one, I believe the average reader of an essay is a bit more intelligent. There's no pun intended here. It's a bit more intelligent than I can say is above the journalist intellectually. Because the reader, the average reader of essays is a bit more intelligent than those who read newspapers on a daily. The essay reader is curious. They seek to know more. They want to go beyond gathering information. There's an interest. It's something like if I'm doing something now that I'm interested in, it is different from doing something that I just want to get informed. I want to know about what is happening with Hezbollah and Israel. I'll tune to CNN. But if I really, really need to know about what is going on with writing creative nonfiction, I will start reading essays about creative nonfiction. So one, the essays is writing for a more intelligent audience, curious readers that seek beyond information. They are looking for meaning. Two, as an essayist, you must address the question of if so, then what? So what? That's so what question. As in, what is the aim of your essay? That's, you must remember, it's an attempt. What is the aim of this essay? And then finally, you want to tell the truth. The people love the truth. So if you want to tell the truth, you must make an attempt, regardless of whether you will persuade or not. So this is about essays. Can we go now to, I don't know if, because my particular pick for this essay writing is Cmonionline's piece, which is titled How Far Can We Trust Science? It is deep. I had to read it 2, 3, 4 times. I will still read it more. But let's talk about structure before we get to sharing. An essay can have many structures, can have different structures, 3, 4, 5, many parts. Cmonionline's essay there had over 20 paragraphs, maybe 21 or 22. I've forgotten the count. But basically, when we started writing in school, in primary school, you were taught 3 structures, 3 paragraphs: introduction, body, conclusion. And then there's the 5-paragraph essay where you have introduction, you have the 3 other paragraphs that you can use to develop your point, your argument, and then you come to conclusion. But all these are outdated now. That is the beauty of writing, especially nonfiction. Especially nonfiction, all these things keep evolving. So, like Bill Robert will say, abandon the outline. All ye who enter here, discovery is the thing. So, if you're writing an essay, yes, you're exploring different complex waters. At the end, your essay might turn out to be a lot more than you expected. You may not even know where you end up, because you're interrogating your mind. You're trying to get out something out of that particular topic you're discussing. It took me 2, 3 reads even to begin to grasp what this man was writing about, because he was all over the place. Talk about exploding some submarine or submersible technology. He will talk about racism. Yet the caption, the title of his essay is How Far Can We Trust Science? So about structure, I think this is rather elementary, but structure still is always important. My school primary, Mr. Wahis will tell you, look, it is important that when you're writing your composition, you write line by line and you write within the margins. That is structure he was giving us in primary school composition. You write line by line and you never write beyond the margins. Write within the margins, or else bad. You have to write it twice. So structure is important. It could be 2, it could be 3 paragraphs or more. Cmonionline did more than 20 paragraphs. But whatever structure your essay assumes, one thing is critical: your introduction. I mean, we all know this from primary school even. If your introduction does not captivate your teacher, maybe bad, because he may have loads of your classmate works to read and mark. So your introduction is very, very important. If your intro is good, the reader is taking it, and the reader continues reading. But if you're, I'll just drop it and look for the next thing to read. But still, freedom is equally as important. You cannot restrict your essay. If you're to make any worthwhile discoveries, if you're to make good contributions, you can't restrict yourself. You must go where your essay wants you to go. If you need to stop, ponder, research, do so. But write something that is very, very worthwhile, very, very credible. That is why they say the essay is a kind of totality. It's short form, but it's a kind of totality. That is why they say you cannot read the essay beyond one season, beyond one sitting, you know. I myself, sometimes I read 2-3 paragraphs and I stop. Before I come back to that essay, I have forgotten what I read. I will have to start afresh again. And it's true. The interruptions of your daily life, you have a lot going through your head. It will distort the flow of thought, what you have gone through the first paragraph. To distort that flow, that train of thought, and you have to start all over again. Well, so, but do I agree that an essay must be done, read in one sitting? Maybe, maybe not. Everybody is plagued by the same thing. We are plagued by the scarcity of time and abundance of distraction everywhere you look. Your phone, screen, distraction. So perhaps reading it twice, or even more than twice, will offer you better understanding. The most important thing is, if you're crafting an essay, have a good intro and make sure that you let your essay lead you so that you can make some discoveries. Don't slip off. Are you there? Does anyone have any question? If you're with me or you want to make a contribution?
I'm here, I'm reading everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have anything? Do you have any contribution or any question? Because I'm going to Connolly's essay. It's a complex essay, I know. But I have to choose one Nigerian essay and one from Ireland here, because I live in Ireland. I can't be satisfying only you guys. And that's selfish. So, did any of you read this essay? How far can we
Yes,
trust
I
science?
did.
You did? Good.
I also did.
Yes, I did.
What did you make of it? Hello?
Emmanuel? Okay. I thought Emmanuel was going to speak, but it seems he muted himself.
Yeah, you can go on, Rhoda. You can go.
I think it was a very interesting novel. Sorry, I said novel, essay. And I like the fact that at the beginning of the essay, he used like storytelling, like his own personal experience, to a point where you had to start asking yourself, is he still going to like connect the story of him not being able to sleep at night to like us not being able to trust science? So like the storytelling there was very good. Like it definitely got my attention. Also the fact that for every point he raised to make us question how trustworthy science is or how trustworthy people in the scientific field are, he like used examples, for example, the Titanic, talking about social media. Basically, he was just like putting things there to actually back up his points, which I think was very good. And it wasn't just things related to the science field, but things that the average person who is not maybe scientifically inclined could understand. So yeah, I think it was an interesting essay. Yeah. And his conclusion as well, it's like it leaves you thinking and wanting to do your own research. So
Yes, thank you so much. It's good to know that you grasp. How many? Can I ask you how many times did you read this, Rhoda?
so because I enjoy reading articles like this, I understood like in the first read, but it's definitely something I would want to like on my own, like read up about the things he mentioned just to know more about it because it actually caught my attention. But generally, I
Oh,
love controversial essays like this, so it was easy to read.
okay. Wonderful. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for this contribution because I know I struggle with time. It's been a roller coaster week for me. I tried to read it the very first time I put it there. But this week again, I said I'll read it 2 times. Each time I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs, I have something to do and then I'll go back. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your contribution. Emmanuel, let me hear from you.
Yes, I did read that essay, and at some point I was wondering if it was actually supposed to be a non-fiction essay. I mean, there was a lot of over explaining, over describing, and use of too much, let's say, analysis, too much examples. And at some point, I was wondering, really, what's the story about? What's this essay about? Is it about the inability to sleep? About his student, I think a student doctor, someone staying with him at the time? Was it about the student doctor? And then suddenly, in another paragraph, he switched it up. He started talking about um, the Titan and the implosion that happened some time ago. About man's decision and how they feel they should stand by a decision until I think until well it's proven to be wrong. Well, I think he was using all this analysis to talk about how untrustworthy science could be. But it was just, I mean, I needed to really focus on it before I could follow it, before I could flow with him, try to figure out where he's going. It was somehow when he changed again. I think that was maybe second to the last paragraph. He changed and started talking about politics. Sorry, the summary was good. I think in the last few lines, he made me realize what the whole essay was about. And it, well, if not for the topic, I would not have been able to know. I would not have known how to describe the essay because science being untrustworthy is not the first idea that would have come into my mind after reading such an essay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is what I mean because Shane was all over the place, but it's good, like you said, that we had a title, which at least gives you an inkling as to the direction he's about to go or that is going to. You know, it's an interesting essay. And just to give you, okay, Chukwuemeka, yeah? Did you read it? Go on.
Yes, I did. And
Okay.
I must say as well that that essay was sincerely, it was all over the place. When I felt I was trying to figure out the direction he's going next, he takes a switch. So he kept swinging me all about the places, and it takes a lot of patience to say, okay, maybe I understand where it's going. And when I felt I'm beginning to be on the same wavelength with him, next he switches. So I do not understand what kind of style he has used. But then what I really want to pick out is that um much as I feel that he is trying to be persuasive or trying to, bring out his own opinion about the extent to which you cannot trust science, I felt that he let his subjectivity, you know, take a better part of the mission he set out to achieve. Where he talked about, he mentioned great scientists like um, um, he mentioned Francis Galton. He mentioned James Watson, as in Charles Darwin's cousin. That is Francis Galton and James Watson. And one of few scientists that have really done well in the area of statistics. I felt there was no need to attack their personal lives. He was not able to separate the personal lives of those scientists from from facts. I don't know how to put it, but I've tried as much as possible to put across my thoughts. He was not able to. He set out to attack, their personal lives when he said that they were much as they've achieved a lot, they've helped science to achieve a lot, to amplify the cause of science. If he devoted more time, to attacking their personal lives when he labeled them as racist and not, I felt he should just go ahead and then pass across his message instead of trying to attack those persons. Because if I feel like, okay, maybe a messenger, just like what they said, don't attack the messenger, but accept the message and don't attack the messenger. Do you understand? So that is my only reservation. That is my major reservation about his apart from being somewhat all over the place. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, that is the thing. Like you said, I may say you're contradicting yourself now. Remember what you said about having you believe that writers have the obligation to give a message, to pass a message. Somebody, yeah, okay. Go on, Rhoda. Let me jot down this point before I lose my thoughts on my reply.
I'm very sorry. I just
go
wanted
on.
to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say something. I don't think he was attacking their personal lives per se, because in the essay, right, he's stating an opinion and he's trying to prove a point. And I don't think it was an attack on their personal life, but just using the fact that there is a possibility of them being racist to prove his point that we cannot fully trust science because every scientist has a bias. So it wasn't an attack at their personal lives, but rather at maybe their thought process. Because, for example, the average white person, right, probably feels some sort of supremacy over a black person. And so it's that thing where if someone comes out with a research that doesn't have enough data and says, oh, based on my research, people of this skin color are smarter than people of this skin color, but I don't have enough data to prove it, we can say, oh, it's because of your bias. So I don't think it was an attack on their personal lives, because he did not like touch on family or anything that deep. He just touched on their thought process. And obviously a scientist needs his brain to make whatever research he's making, right? So it was just like pointing out the fact that because of the way we think or because of the environment in which we are nurtured, like we can make mistakes even as learned people like scientists. So I think it was just to prove his point that, yeah, science is affected by the people in science.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Emmanuel.
In addition to what Bami Kole said, yeah, I remember a part of the essay where he said that humans stand to their own decision and would think that other people aren't as smart as they are. Yes, so I think the reason why he decided to talk about, let's say, the director of Ocean Gate or something like that, the name of that submersible. Yeah, so he was talking about using the director of the Ocean Gate as a kind of example, talking about how even though he was deep in the sea, he believed that he was right, he was smart, he was intelligent until, well, the implosion. So I think that he was just trying to make us relate to what he was saying, trying to achieve, to help us achieve clarity while also making his essay seem very interesting. So, while the essay, I think he finally was able to achieve what he set out to achieve. educate, um, maintain interest, and then, well, call up very good examples to buttress his point. That is to drive home his point. I think it was a good essay. It was all fine.
Yeah, sorry, before I forget, Chukwemeka, see, these guys are scientists, they are public individuals. Racism is a public menace, is a public menace. And so whether you're a public individual or not, if I'm a writer, I mean, if you're the lowliest person on the street and I have a feeling, an inkling, or I experience racism from you, I owe the world. This is why we are writers. I owe the world to the duty. It's an obligation to expose these things. So it's not a personal attack per se, because they are already public individuals. They are public figures, people who have who have influenced so many others with their inventiveness. So it's not wrong. You yourself, you said you want your stories, you want your craft, your work to have some didactic impact, So if you look at it that way, then we will not write stories. Some people use their life, their mother, their sisters, gossip about them in stories, but maybe they will shield them, use different names, but they just want to expose these things. It's just like this lady, this Konya Black that I used her definition of essay. She wrote about her mom in one of her stories and talked about her mom's epilepsy. It wasn't a personal attack on her mom, but she had a problem with her sister while trying to discuss it. Her sister wasn't cool with that, and she called her out for it. Then they had a one-on-one, and after giving it due thought, she thought, well, she was just writing that story for herself, even though she informed her mom. And then when they were much older, she now went back to her mom and asked her mom, did she really feel offended? And her mom said, no. And why? Because I love you. And she asked her, is that all? Because you love me? Her mom said, well, maybe that also felt like it was also relieving for me. Because it's a family secret, and once you bring that secret out there, it's no longer a burden. It's no longer so her mom was like, yeah, I was okay with it because I love you. And then she insisted, is it only because you love me? And her mom was like, well, maybe it felt relieving at the time you published it too. And and they were cool with it. So writers, just like what Lee Gotken was saying, some things that are not meant to be said have to be said. And by who? Writers. Yeah, someone is yeah, go on. Okay, Chukwemeka, go on.
Yes, I understand. I understand what you're saying, and it's not that I'm trying to, negate what I actually held, the opinion I held towards the beginning. If you notice the way he handled Richard Lyne's theory about the book about intelligence of nations, where he theorized that the connectivity between race and IQ, where he said that the whites are higher in IQ than the blacks. When he also talked about the northern Irish people more intelligent, more in terms of more higher in IQ than the southern Irish. Do you understand? So I love the way he handled that aspect, the way he criticized the book, in the sense that he said there weren't enough facts for him to reach such conclusion. Yes, he was able to itemize the process in which he was able to itemize the scientific processes, the stages something will have to pass through before you can now say yes, this should what be a fact or a law or a theory. I love the way he handled Richard Lyne's intelligence of nations. That apart, so I expect that he should also, use that philosophy to delve into those other scientists like Francis Galton, James Watson, and the rest of them. Yes, these are people that have contributed to the to science. Truly, racism has to be condemned in all its entirety. But I felt that in all these things, I'm also looking back at the topic. I'm also looking back at the topic that says, how far can we trust science? Are you not trying to say, okay, because these people have been, identified to, have some coloration elements of racism in them, that we should not throw away what they have achieved in science, or you cannot use that as a basis
No,
to discredit.
it raises that question.
But
that is the thing.
I hope you understand.
That question.
So is it because they have been identified to be racist at some point? You will now want to what? Push for their works to be, discredited. I do not think the approach he used was, very authentic in my own opinion. So that is the area I was pointing about. Thank you very much. It's a delicate thing, actually.
When he said when he talked about them being proponent of eugenics and so on, you see, these things, it's left for the reader. He's raising a question. He's raising a question because racism is something, and just like Rhoda said, science is practiced by scientists. You understand me? He said that Lane is a eugenicist, and you know what they are all about. They're trying to prove, the superiority of a certain race over the other, scientifically, even though you might say it's wrong science. So this is what you are, a scientist and you're practicing science. And like he started with his story about how he uses his devices, science and technology, and all the things that he's able to do and the ones he's able to understand and not understand. So the question he raises is poignant, no matter how you want to look at it. Sorry, we don't have much time. Can we just we can continue this chat on the platform, please, so that we don't overshoot. I still have to pop out. Let me get back to my presentation. So I know his work is is complex anyway. It is, and I've read it about twice completely now. I still want to make more sense of it. But you can see from his intro that he draws you in. I have never been the best of sleepers. My pattern had always been to read until the wee hours, until my eyes grew blurry, my thoughts grew slow, and unconsciousness would at last suppress me. My thoughts at night have really given me comfort. And for all that reading, knowledge did not either. This is wonderful. This is a wonderful intro. Having shown his ability, that he reads and reads and reads, but still he acknowledged that it is not enough. It hasn't given him much comfort. And then you go down to the other paragraph where he says something about that his ego is such that I may have I have a sense. Hold on, I have to enlarge this. That I don't know much. That is the paragraph that. Hold on for this. It's my no.
So may I say something while you search for what?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, I'm back to this.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I also noticed that he was not really intentional, careful about his punctuation. Especially with the use of comma. I don't know.
Yeah.
At some point, I have to reread for me to get, a comma that is wrongly placed can, change the meaning of a sentence. So, not once, not twice. I felt he could have done better in terms of using punctuation marks correctly. That's just what I want to find out.
Yeah, see, there was a where he said that. Let me read that paragraph. I just want to. I like it. Where he said, "I fear." Hold on. Yeah, yeah. From a pragmatic perspective, I can trust technology that I rely on, even if its actions are arcane. There are things that I need to know and things that I don't. When I'm coding up a model for some kind of statistical analysis, I need to know how that process works so that weakness in the data or the limitation of the algorithm do not drive me into error. However, in contrast to knowing how it works, I only need to know how to work the silicon chip upon which all this runs. Whether it is the washing machine or WhatsApp, we are surrounded by things that we use in spite of our ignorance. See, this guy did a very great job here. Then he goes down there he also talks about knowing a little about physics and how the diode works. Then hold on, it comes down to it comes down now to this paragraph where he says, yeah, in the preceding, now he goes on to acknowledge his limitations in subsequent paragraphs where he uses, he tells us that he would want to know more about some of these things, some of this, how the technology works, but he's plagued by time, and everybody is plagued by time. He acknowledges the common denominator that affects everyone else. So he can't get more rational than that, and that is, where the guy deployed logos, that is logic and rational reasoning to appeal to you. So I think it's an interesting essay, and I'm glad that we did it and were able to interrogate it to this extent. Yeah, Emmanuel, go on. Please, quick. I want to jump to craft essays. It was
Oh,
go
oh,
on.
at a point, I discovered that I noticed that at a point, he stopped blaming science and started critiquing human beings. He said, if we trust, even if we can trust science, how well can we trust humans? So I think he was allowing the reader to make the final decision, to be the one to criticize and actually get to a conclusion. Like he was having a kind
Yeah,
of pure intent. His writing was just pure. He was just saying what he thought, what he could observe, but was letting you to have the final say, to give the final
yeah,
decision. Yes.
yeah, yes. It's all about it. Is give your take, give your position, but still let the reader draw inference from the whole body of your work. So yeah, thank you for noticing that. So let's talk about craft essays now, guys. Please, I'll crave your indulgence to just browse through this craft essays. It's can anyone try? What is a craft essay? What does it mean? Can anyone try? Anyone? Has Daniel left us? Maybe he's sleeping. Was I that boring? Have I been that boring?
No, sir.
Daniel was here.
No,
Daniel was one of the first people.
I wonder why Daniel is not in this class. He should be in this class.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Maybe he left his network. So let's see. Does anyone have an idea of what a craft essay is? Anyone at all? Okay. You can imagine, I never really knew what a craft essay, and in short, I hadn't heard the word. I first learned about this in a creative writing class sometime in 2017 or 2018. I can't be too sure now. Here in Ireland. And Dinty Moore of Brevity Magazine, I think I've mentioned him in one or two of our sessions, was our instructor's example on the day. I started following Brevity Mag. I started reading, since then I've been fascinated and flipping sites and reading all and any writer I can find that is involved in, crafting personal essays. So a craft essay is essentially what it means. The phrase can also be self-explanatory somewhat. A craft essay examines the art or science of writing, the life of writing, the craft. But of course, it's usually a personal essay, even though you're contributing to a larger conversation out there. You're contributing to the pool of the community of creators and writers of nonfiction. But it is basically a personal, creative nonfiction. Your text, your work is as original as you are, as you want it to be. It's a creative work that serves a different purpose. So it is writing about writing. And it helps me develop myself. That's why it fascinated me so much. For some time, I've been doing the Success Journey series. It's because I created my own purpose for writing craft essays. So it's all about all these guys, writers from Dinty Moore to David Perel, it helps them acknowledge, I've read from them that craft essay helps them to develop their writing. Seth Godin, Dan Coe, there are plenty of them, Jason Fred, Justin Welsh, so many of them that I follow them on different platforms, some on YouTube, some on podcast, Spotify, some on Twitter. All of them, mostly they do craft essays. And whether they talk about entrepreneurship, sports, or entertainment, or they just writing, doing literature. One thing I've found in common is that while their skill set is contributing to the creative community out there, they always acknowledge one thing. Some of them are billionaires, some are millionaires. They still acknowledge one thing. Some are involved in tech, some are involved in different endeavors, production, movies, software, whatever. All of them attribute their success to writing. And this is what interests me most. All of them have said at one point or the other that even with AI, they can never outsource their writing. So I created my own purpose. I said that for me, I will analyze my writing craft across several other skills that I'm developing. Because like I said, anything I want to learn, anything I want to do, I try to learn it. Soon I will start learning Spanish as a second language. I'll put it up. So I will analyze my writing craft across the several skill sets that I have or take a single skill and analyze it across the different types and elements of my own writing. And this is the purpose of me doing it's a hybrid. You may think it is copywriting, but I can assure you it's not. Why I started writing my success journey series, which I know I will still develop further as I'm doing writing this book that I hope to publish. So it is not copywriting. Yeah, it looks like copywriting if you know copywriting, but it is not. It is flexible enough for me. And the structure I've developed is have a hook, five points. A hook, you mention the pain points, do some analysis, maybe development, 1 or 2 arguments. And then you offer practical tips and the call to action. If you read most of my success journey series, it's just a similar pattern. But I infuse it with storytelling because you must tell a story. My hook has to be catchy. Like, let's take, for instance, the reading you have there now, which is my digital holy grail. I start with follow people who inspire you. I think it's catchy enough. You just know what this man wants to talk about. And then I go down and tell you about my journey on Facebook. I look back at, I've not opened Facebook for over a year and a half. I look back and it's amazing. I lived there. That thing sucked the life out of me. Wasted all my time. I mean, I was telling my cousin the other day, I was at a point, while I was in Nigeria, you can't look for 1 million and not find it in my account. But at a point, wasting time on Facebook, if you ask me for 500,000, I'll scratch my head before I know where to get my money from. So I mentioned it as one of the problems. It's one of the pain points for me. And then I also go to analyze and present some arguments around it. And then I itemize the practical tips that you could follow, that I follow. You remember I said it's how to. And then I ended it with, a call for action. My call for action is always the same thing, It's always there at the end of my craft, it says. Like I said, it's similar to copywriting, but it's not. Can anybody tell me why? If you have idea of what copywriting is. I think, Mazi, you mentioned something about copywriting, so I assume you have an idea of what it is. I don't know. Does anyone know what copywriting is? Mazi is out.
I'm not out. I'm with you, sir.
Okay. Oh, I saw Mazi left. Okay. So, if you just go back to what I said now, hook, pinpoints, analysis, practical tips, and then call to action. This is my structure of trying to make. Ruda, good. Writing used to sell a product. Yeah, good. So, what I'm saying is, you may think that my style, my structure is strategies, is copywriting, but it's not. So, if you know what copywriting is, can you tell me why what I've just stated now as my way of doing craft is different from copywriting? Do you think you know?
I do not think it's the same with copywriting.
Yeah, but copywriting also tries to catch you, hook you, and then tell you,
yes,
give you some whatever you're doing.
Persuade you to and lead you to a call to action, right?
Persuade you to they still try to sell to you, or at least to convert you, to follow the lead, So copywriting tries to persuade you as a reader to buy, or at least read more, and then eventually convert to a lead. That's what we call potential lead, in marketing. But what I'm doing is I try to do a longer form because I'm not selling anything, at least not yet. What I'm selling or may sell is an idea. I don't have any physical product. But I'm telling you how to, or how I. That is why I dive deeper to create a lasting bond, a lasting relationship with the reader. It takes time. It takes time. So this craft essay of a thing, I've found out that as I am developing my writing and developing other skills, I'm also imparting knowledge and helping the reader to develop. Ultimately, I get you to consider putting pen to paper and to start writing as the foundation of any successful endeavor you wish to. Okay. I think we have unpacked a lot, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm kind of running out of time. And I thank you all for being here. If you have any more contribution, you can make it now. In the next few minutes, you will have to make it on the platform or send a message, please, because I have to go. Does anyone have anything to say?
Of
Okay.
course, I have something to say.
You always have something to say. Can you be quick, please?
Okay, back to the story about the lady. I remember when I wrote the first time about Messidino. I, I believe it was a very unexpected story on the platform. I mean, the bad waiter. That was the first story I wrote. So it's okay. It's okay if someone tries to be maybe a little dramatic with a story that actually happened. I mean, the story is not made to encourage it, but actually to expose it. It's just like an expository essay. Tell you what is happening, but in a creative way. So it's not like it's not having a particular stand. The writer didn't boldly say, I support this, but actually just gave it to you the way it is. This is how it is. This is a 19-year-old girl. She does it and then prays to God and done all that. But the writer didn't say anywhere in the essay that, well, that's how it should be, or it is cool, or anything like that. When I wrote The Bad Waiter, I know that's a different work from this. Like, this is non-fiction, and what I did was fiction. But when I wrote The Bad Waiter, I wasn't saying, well, this is good, this is how it should be. I was just telling what is happening, what has been happening around. Like, we do have playboys and all that, we have bad guys, and then maybe I try to show the reaction of some ladies when they are dealing with some bad guys. So I try to write as a bad guy and express the kind of reaction a bad guy will usually receive when dealing with ladies. So yeah, so that is what writers aim to do. We don't really, many writers do not have any moral standing. We just write and express ourselves, maybe write and expose things. We don't really start condemning, and you know but I think if a writer wants to do that, the writer would decide to do that, I mean, straightforwardly. But now this is just a creative non-fiction, so it shouldn't bother too much like that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm not
thank you so
validating
much.
anything, Auntie Becky.
No, listen, I understand. I remember there was an incident when you posted something on the platform. It didn't go down well with a couple of other writers. The truth is this: we are writers. What we try to, what we may not find palatable, what we see as explicit is explicit, of course. But what you may not find palatable, it may just be, cake to the next person. As writers, we owe a duty, not to be first of all, not to be false to ourselves, not to be deceitful to ourselves. We owe ourselves the duty to be forthright, especially in this type of writing that we're talking about. It's not imagined, it's not fictional, it's real. So the untimely, what she wrote there, she could have imagined some of it, but we are not there. It's a work of creative nonfiction. So we're assuming it happened to her. And if she's bold enough to say it, whether she even supports what she's saying, what she wrote, what if she thinks, sex before premarital sex or whatever, it's okay with her.